we're going to explain how I'm focusing on a gimbal. I'm shooting now the A7 IV. I have the 50mm lens on it. I have an ND filter on it. Sometimes I will use autofocus. Sometimes I will use manual focus. It depends on the situation you're shooting in. Let's do some tracking shots and I will explain you when I use autofocusing mode or manual focusing mode. Okay, let's start with a tracking shot, a front tracking shot. We will demonstrate that now. And I'm shooting a very shallow depth of field. I'm shooting f1.8 here. The face is always detected by the camera in autofocus. The eye is always into focus. I can make a tracking shot and the camera will do the work for me. It will keep Vera all the time into focus. Vera, if you walk a little bit towards me and walk a little bit back, maybe take a spin. You can see here how the autofocus handles the face. It will automatically track Vera's face every time she moves. If I do a front tracking shot, it's easy. I always keep it on autofocus. How do I switch from autofocus to manual focus? It's with this button, the AF on button. For this instance, I always keep it on. Autofocus continues and the camera will do the work for me. And now we start tracking the subject. So we will demonstrate that right now. Let's make a tracking shot. In some cases I would use a manual focusing system. I would use a manual focusing system when there is, for instance, an object in between the camera and the talent. Vera, if you come stand right here, as you can see, the camera will focus onto Vera right now. When Vera walks a little bit to the front of the pathway, to that side, Vera, very slowly, you can see now the tree will come across the frame. And my focus will snap into the foreground. When I now follow again, Vera will be out of focus. If I do a tracking shot when there is objects passing in front of me, then I would switch to a manual focusing system. Manual focusing on this camera, you have to press the AF button. If you press the AF button, the camera switches into a manual focusing system. I can move the camera in every direction with an object in the foreground. The camera will not hunt for focus anymore. But you have to realize that now the camera has to maintain the same distance from Vera, because if I move closer, we will get out of focus because the focus is locked. We have to stay on the same distance from our subject and then we can make a shot. So let's demonstrate that right now. And now you see the camera will automatically detect Vera's face. We're in focus now, and now I'm switching off to a manual focus. Vera, you can start walking. Can you stay in the same line, in the same distance from me? Don't move towards me or to the side of me. And action. A third scenario where I use a manual focus is I like to have my subject walk into the frame and leave the frame. If I'm shooting on a shallow depth of field and the subject would leave the frame, the focus would snap back onto the background and make it sharp again. Vera, can you leave the frame for me? So what happens now is the camera will automatically make the background go back into focus. And I don't want that. Vera, can you enter the frame again? The way I do this is I would have Vera look into the camera. I will take a focus and I would switch off to manual focus. Can you leave the frame again, Vera? Okay, now walk in. This is the scene. Walk in the frame and look around. Absorb the atmosphere. Can you leave the frame again? You see, the background stays the same. There is no snapping, hunting for focus in this scene. Vera, can you enter again? Okay, there is Vera again. Let's track to that side and go and walk. All right, nice. So and now Vera, leave the frame, walk a little bit faster. Okay, and you see the background will stay fuzzy, and that's what we want. If I press my C3 button here, you can see there is a tracking mode popping up. A tracking mode is a mode specifically to a Sony camera. And this is also a handy feature if you're doing, for instance, an ellipse around the subject. The camera will automatically always keep focus on the subject you select. Vera, can you walk towards the end of the road? All right, nice. Vera, can you face the camera? So if I now go with the camera out of frame and I do a reveal, you see the camera snaps back onto the background. We don't want that. If I come into frame, Vera is fuzzy and now the camera finds its focus. That looks not that professional. So in this case also I would lock off the focus into a manual focus. Let's see what the difference is. I lock it off. I will take my camera out of frame. Background stays the same. I come into the frame and Vera is always in focus. And that's the way the shot should look.